Good people, the new Hyte X50 is just as exciting as it was when I first saw it with Computex. Funky color options, cool curvature on the exterior and on the interior, so design consistency is very much Hyte related. There are some compromises along the way. The laminated tempered glass isn't as soundproofing as they say it is. It doesn't really make a difference when the rest of your enclosure is basically just a giant perforation. No difference. But I'm glad this thing exists because I bet many other brands are going to start to notice what Hyte is doing and try to implement similar tactics in terms of design ID, color implementation, and doing something funky and risky like that, because we need that. In a sea of dual chambers and black and white boxes, Hyte is starting to stand out. Okay, so my first impressions of build quality are way better versus what we experienced at Computex. Like, the side panel is toolless, but it has so much density that there's no way it's exiting accidentally. You have to push it up, and that's how it gets removed. The front panel is also toolless, can be easily removed by the bottom, and it is reversible. Interestingly, all these pins that go into the toolless mechanism are actually screws, so you can remove them in case one of them breaks and you have to replace it. This is genius. Of course, the side panels between the regular X50 and the Air are interchangeable. Boom. So there are no differences on the frame level between the X50 Air and the glass version. And this looks so good with the red glass on the white model. And because none of the cases come with any fans, so the only difference would be this curved glass piece versus a curved perforated piece. The rear side panel removes the same way, just push it up. So we have the two push pins at the bottom and magnets and little catch holes for the top. So the panel, even though it's toolless, it is fully secured. Nice. Now, having swapped out some of these exterior panels, I wish Hyte did something like this at the factory, giving you options for a dual colorway, because this looks so unique and different. This is why I appreciate Thermaltake's new direction for a dual colorway on the interior and the exterior, which I think is definitely missing with the X50. Don't get me wrong, I love the lilac and the mint green, but a gradient on the interior or the exterior would just look so unique and different. I wish that more companies would do that. When it comes to paint though, there's definitely some texture differences between these exterior panels. Like, the larger panels definitely have the orange peel happening, while the smaller sections, like the curvature around the side panels, for example, is way smoother. And what they were able to achieve with this front panel perforation is actually pretty incredible, because it goes all the way to the edges, giving us that consistent look, but the panel is not flexing in a way that I would expect having this much perforation, which means that you don't necessarily need a dust filter, and therefore you have this two-in-one functionality behind the front panel that is both good for airflow and dust filtration, and also looks as well, because it looks awesome with the curvature. This is definitely a Hyte design. All right, as for the interior, it is actually quite basic. The most notable difference is the power supply chamber that's now been shifted above the motherboard. That clears out room underneath the graphics card for extra cooling, because now we have a slot for triple 120mm fans underneath the graphics card. Unfortunately, it is not a removable bracket, so once you pop the fans in there, you have to tilt the case down in order to access those screw holes. Your side ventilation is for 120mm fans only. It will support up to a 360 radiator, so the only removable part in this entire enclosure when it comes to cooling is your front bracket. The front panel bracket removes with just 2 screws. Now, this bracket is pretty standard. It will support triple 140mm fans, the only place on the enclosure to do so, and it has an offset mechanic. Basically, adjusting this piece at the top and one at the bottom gives you the flexibility to move the bracket either inwards inside the frame or keep it outside of the frame, giving you the most flexibility on the interior, for example, for a push-pull setup, without the need to sandwich the radiator between a set of fans on the exterior of the bracket. With this mechanism, you have the option to have the bracket basically flush against the case frame, or have it all the way out with a 45mm offset towards the front panel, basically giving you all the clearance on the interior. In practice, this method of offsetting the fan bracket is not as user-friendly as something like Lee & Lee, where you don't have to unscrew 2 pieces and adjust things accordingly. but it's still a welcome addition in case you need all the space on the interior or the exterior. Although some build quality elements could be improved, like the front fan bracket is a little too thin and flimsy for my taste, like it bends just as much as the bottom plastic dust filter. Like this is fine. It's not gonna snap, it's not gonna break, but it flexes just as much as the metal piece does. Then we have this type of flexibility on the frame level, which I'm not okay with. The rear fan slot has some height flexibility, plus this really awesome ventilation pattern that is part of the frame. It is not removing the material, it is just simply bending it. Therefore, the structural rigidity on this type of mesh is actually quite good, and it matches to our PCIe slots, which is really cool. Behind the motherboard tray, here we have this beefy storage bracket that will support dual SSDs and a single 3.5-inch drive. We have these chunky Velcro ties that are only in one direction, and I prefer to have some mixture, because if you have to bend the 24-pin cable in a specific direction, it's nice to have the Velcro ties 90 degrees to what is already here to secure the cable properly. The power supply chamber is large enough over here with this massive Velcro at the front to potentially tie some of those cables down. Although there's no easy access for those cables, this entire power supply cover is not removable, so accessing anything from the top is impossible. Now, on the one hand, having the power supply at the top here will help with cooling your CPU area, just because we have an additional exhaust fan. And number two, you have to kind of consider the color of the bottom of your power supply. Right now I chose white just so it can match the interior of this enclosure, but otherwise, if you have a black power supply, that entire round cutout is gonna appear like a giant black circle. The case feet are removable, in case you are wondering. Potentially for future DLC, like if you want to accessorize your X50, but also the pink, the green, and the purple have different case feet, which is probably why they are removable. Now, the lack of fans included with the X50 is definitely intentional, just to try to push you towards color-coded fans from Hyte themselves. Here I have the FA12's modern aesthetic fan. Let's see if they match with the case color. It sucks they're not daisy chainable, but at least in terms of color coordination, they match perfectly to the rubber grommets on the side and above the motherboard. And there's that beautiful contrast between some of the glossy elements and the matte hardware. Awesome. As for cooling performance on the X50, it is totally fine. As long as you mount something at the rear for exhaust, something in the front for intake, any 360 I/O and a decent enough GPU would be totally fine. You don't have to worry about temperatures. This isn't meant to be a chart topper for airflow performance anyway. But because of these funky colors, you have to think about the fan color choice as well. And Hyte sells them for $40 for a pack of 4, which is actually not that bad, especially when they color match perfectly to an existing frame and they blend in perfectly by not being revealed from the front panel, and at the back just kind of getting hidden by the frame. It's awesome. Now, my experience with the assembly is almost flawless. Like, the top mounted power supply is not a problem for cable management. The case is kind of an mid-tower size, so all the cables reach everywhere just fine. The bottom fans are nice and tight in that cavity, which makes sense because you don't want big gaps surrounding the fans. So for visual purposes, it looks great. It fills in that bottom floor, and we do have spacing just perfectly fine to route your cables to the rear chamber, for example. I do like how Hyte pre-routes your I/O cables in the corner, nicely hidden, and you can also remove that metal cover in case you need to access them for some reason. And I do appreciate the fast USB-C over here with dual USB-A's as well. Now, what Hyte has delivered here is pretty impressive with the X50. The curved glass is gorgeous. The design language here is just so consistent. All the curves on the exterior and the interior, hardware compatibility is perfectly fine. It's a little chunkier in terms of width, since it's not a traditional dual chamber, because the power supply is at the top. But I wish that there were some thought put into that power supply chamber of being able to, let's say, remove the top cover in order to access some of the cables and actually use that massive Velcro strap, because otherwise with my fat fingers I can't really get in there and utilize it properly. I'm surprised there's no vertical GPU bracket push with the X50, because you have the additional intake at the bottom and this gorgeous display of your graphics card and your components. So why not introduce some vertical GPU that would fit the X50? I'm guessing the challenges of like trying to color code everything would also be tricky, but maybe as a DLC, Hyte, make it happen, please. I like the X50, but I like the X50 Air more, especially the white one with a full perforation side panel that screams for a Stormtrooper build where there is absolutely no other color but black and white. But guys, let me know what you think of the X50 in the comments below. Did it meet your expectations based on what you saw at Computex? I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video.